Where are your fingers? It sounds like one of the easiest questions anyone could ask. You don't even have to think about it. You can see your fingers, move them, and touch them with your other hand. So the answer seems obvious. They're right here. But that's not the real question. The real question is, how do you know they're there? Try something. Close your eyes. Stretch one arm out to the side, and without looking, touch the tip of your nose with your index finger. Most people can do it almost perfectly on the first try. Now think about what just happened. You never saw your finger move. You never measured the angle of your arm or calculated the distance between your hand and your face. Yet your brain knew exactly where your finger was every single moment. How? Most people would simply answer, because I can feel it. But that raises an even stranger question. How can you feel the position of your finger when it isn't touching anything? The answer is something most of us were never taught in school. It's called proprioception. Think of it as your body's internal GPS. Tiny sensors inside your muscles, tendons, and joints constantly send information to your brain about where every part of your body is in space. It's the reason you can walk upstairs in the dark, type on a keyboard without staring at every key, or scratch your head without accidentally hitting your ear. In fact, police officers indirectly test this ability during field sobriety tests. When someone is asked to close their eyes and touch the tip of their nose, they're checking whether the brain can accurately track the body's position without relying on vision. And that's where the first surprise begins. You've probably heard that humans have 5 senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. But modern neuroscience says that's not true. That idea comes from Aristotle more than 2,000 years ago. Today, we know the human body has many more sensory systems. Your inner ear constantly tells your brain whether you're leaning, spinning, or falling. Your skin measures temperature. Specialized nerve endings detect pain before serious damage occurs. Your body also monitors hunger, thirst, your heartbeat, even the amount of oxygen in your blood. Every second, millions of electrical signals travel from your body to your brain. Some tell you where your arms are. Some keep you balanced. Others warn you that something is too hot to touch. Together, they create what feels like one seamless experience: reality. But here's something that completely changes the way you think about your own mind. Your brain has never actually seen a color. It has never heard a sound. It has never felt warmth. The brain sits locked inside complete darkness, protected by your skull. All it ever receives are tiny electrical signals sent by your eyes, ears, skin, and the rest of your nervous system. Somehow, those signals become the blue sky, the smell of coffee, your favorite song, and the feeling of your fingers resting in your hand. In other words, your brain isn't showing you reality itself. It's showing you its best interpretation of reality. And most of the time, that interpretation is remarkably accurate. But not always. Sometimes your brain makes mistakes. And those mistakes are far more important than they seem, because every illusion reveals something extraordinary about how the brain actually works. Take the famous Rubin vase illusion. At first, you see a vase. Then, without the image changing at all, you suddenly see 2 faces looking at each other. Nothing on the screen changed, only your brain's interpretation changed. And once you realize that, a much bigger question appears. If your brain is constantly interpreting reality, can you ever truly trust what you see? Now, let's go back to that vase. If your brain can change a vase into 2 faces without the image changing at all, what else can it change? Vision isn't the only sense that can be fooled. Imagine watching someone clearly say the word ba, but their lips move as if they're saying ga. Strangely, many people don't hear either one. Instead, they hear da. This is called the McGurk Effect, and it proves something fascinating. You don't hear using your ears alone. Your brain combines what your eyes see with what your ears hear, then creates a single experience. In other words, your brain isn't simply receiving information, it's actively editing it. Touch can be fooled too. In one famous experiment called the rubber hand illusion, a volunteer hides their real hand while a fake rubber hand is placed in front of them. Both the real hand and the fake hand are stroked at exactly the same time. After about a minute, something incredible happens. The brain begins treating the fake hand as if it actually belongs to the body. When researchers suddenly threaten the rubber hand with a hammer or even a knife, many participants instinctively pull away, even though they know the hand isn't real. Logic says it's fake, but the brain has already rewritten reality. Scientists believe this happens because your brain is constantly trying to build the best explanation from incomplete information. Modern neuroscience calls this idea predictive processing. Instead of waiting for information to arrive, your brain is always making predictions about what it's about to see, hear, and feel. Then it compares those predictions with incoming sensory signals. If the prediction matches reality, everything feels normal. If it doesn't, your brain updates its internal model. Think about your phone's autocorrect. It doesn't wait for you to finish typing a word. It predicts what you're trying to say before you've finished. Most of the time, it's correct. Sometimes, it creates something completely ridiculous. Your brain works in almost the same way. That's why you can catch a ball without calculating its speed, why you recognize a friend's face in a fraction of a second, why you can finish someone's sentence before they do. Prediction makes life incredibly fast and efficient, but it also explains why illusions exist. Sometimes, your brain's best guess is simply wrong, and that leads to one of the oldest questions in human history. If everything you experience is first interpreted by your brain, how do you know anything is actually true? More than 2,300 years ago, the philosopher Plato suggested that knowledge requires three things. It must be true, you must believe it's true, and you must have a good reason for believing it. This idea became known as justified true belief, and it shaped philosophy for centuries. But science takes an even humbler approach. It doesn't claim to possess absolute truth. Instead, it builds the best explanations possible using evidence, always willing to replace old ideas when better evidence appears. That's exactly what happened when humanity discovered that the Earth revolves around the sun. For thousands of years, the opposite seemed obvious. Reality never changed. Only our understanding did. The same is true inside your own head. Your memories, your thoughts, your emotions, even this moment, exist as patterns of electrical activity spread across billions of neurons. Every time two neurons repeatedly activate together, their connection becomes stronger, a process called long-term potentiation. Neuroscientists often summarize it with one simple sentence: cells that fire together, wire together. Those connections become your memories, your habits, your personality, even your sense of self. But here's the mystery. Everything you've ever known has reached you through your brain. You can never step outside your own mind to compare your experience with reality itself. Philosophers call this the egocentric predicament. It doesn't mean the outside world isn't real. It simply means you can never experience it directly. You only experience your brain's model of it. Maybe we'll never know reality exactly as it is, but perhaps that was never the goal of science. Science isn't about achieving perfect certainty. It's about building better models, asking better questions, and getting a little closer to the truth with every discovery. So let's go back to the question that started this journey. Where are your fingers? A few minutes ago, the answer felt obvious. Now, it feels a little more mysterious. Because the question was never really about your fingers. It was about how your brain constructs the reality you experience every single second. And maybe the greatest discovery isn't finding every answer. Maybe it's realizing just how extraordinary the questions really are.